What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. So I'm in for an absolute treat today. I've got my friend Alex Savva on board, who is a strength and conditioning coach. He's a Hyrox athlete. He's done marathons. So a lot of value, which we're going to unpack today. Alex, it's a pleasure to have you on board today.
Thank you very much.
So what we'll start off with then is I always like to kind of go over maybe what your background is, like how you got into coaching and just your background in fitness in general. So give us a bit of a rundown then, like where did fitness start for you and how do you kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, I guess it's a tricky question because it's a long question because I think fitness is something that's always been part of my life. I can't really remember where it started, but like most people that kind of grow up in the UK, you grow up playing some sort of sport, usually football, rugby, wherever it's like it in the playground, tag and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I was always like looking at like movies like Rocky, these sort of movies, and I was the kid that kind of would be watching the Rocky movie and trying to do one-arm push-up and like trying to do push-ups. And when my dad bought some dumbbells, you know, I'd sneak out the back in the garage and try and lift them. By 12 years old, I got little bicep, and I'm thinking, yeah, like this is cool. So I think fitness for me has always been something that's been integral to my childhood.
What was your sport? Like, what was your like absolute best sport? If you were
football was the main sport.
Yeah. Nice.
I guess at school I tried to play everything, like whether it was basketball, whether it was athletics, whether it was rugby. Looking back on it, though, football was probably a bad choice of sport because it's so competitive.
So competitive, yeah.
Even if you're half decent, there's still like 100,000 other people way better than you.
But I guess the only thing with football is like even if you're not the best, like even if you're playing like League Two, like you can still make good money, right? Yeah. Whereas like if you're not the best in another sport, like rugby, for example, like you are struggling to make money. But at the same time, there's so many people that play football.
I think football is a great sport to play growing up because it develops lots of like areas of fitness, like speed, endurance, balance, coordination, teamwork, all these sort of things. When I was about year 8, maybe, so about 12 years old, I started playing rugby, and my PE teachers were like, Alex, seriously now, like actually really good at rugby.
Yeah.
Forget about football and focus on that.
That's what happened to me actually as well. Similar thing. I mean, I played football. I wasn't ever really that good. It was just one of those things I played. But then when I got into rugby, I was playing like both, and I was just way better at rugby. Yeah. So I went down the rugby route. But then I was playing like loads of other sports as well. I was playing like tennis. I was swimming. I ended up playing water polo, which is a bit of a weird sport.
Good sport though.
It is a good sport, yeah. I did athletics as well. So I was like running and doing. Then I was like mixed. I was doing like 800 meters. I was good at. But then I was also good at 100 meters. I was quick. So yeah, I was just doing like all this different stuff. But then I pretty much just narrowed it to rugby. And I mean, I was good, but I wasn't I wasn't really good.
What position did you play?
But I played on the wing or centre. I was kind of mixed between the two. But
you always had speed then?
I did have speed, yeah. And then when I got into the gym, I obviously got a lot stronger as well. So that massively helped me. Like that was a massive turning point probably for me in rugby because I developed, instead of just being quick and agile and like being able to dodge people, I kind of run through people as well.
Sure, yeah.
I kind of like had a better game. And yeah, I feel like if I'd really prioritized rugby and went all in on it and really like decided that was the real, I reckon I could have got to a higher level. I don't think I'd become a pro, but I think I could have definitely played a good level of rugby, but I just didn't really work out in the end.
Sports are very, very competitive throughout the world. And growing up, I always wanted to, I mean, like most people, like grew up in England. If you played football or whatever sport, you want to be a professional.
Yeah, you do.
And when I was about 11, you know, at school, when you leave primary school and you go to secondary school, they were like, you know, they ask you the question like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah. And I think half the boys in my year were like, I want to be a footballer, but if I don't become a footballer, you know, I want to be like something like a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah.
Like to say, you know, the two are linked and like it's a logical backup. Like, if I fail as a footballer, sure, I'll just become a lawyer.
Yeah. One of the hardest professions to get into.
It's just like, I just become a lawyer or doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, so I did pretty much everything, and I was very much into like martial arts as well. Yeah, kind of grew up around watching like Rocky, Bruce Lee movies. So I did like Wing Chun Kung Fu. I did like, you know, some karate and things like this. I liked fighting as well. Watching WWF.
I used to watch that.
Clotheslining my brother, ankle locking kids at school. So I kind of always like physical things, and I think that's why I like rugby. Because I kind of, my first day, they were like, "All right, we're gonna play a game." I just speared someone. They're like, "How did you do that?" I was like, "I don't know,
you just did.
You said tackle him." DDT. tea, done.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was very active, and by the time I got to about 16, I'm playing all the different sports. I've gone to do my A-levels, and on one side, my dad's still pushing me to become a footballer, and probably like my granddad was a bit like, like focus on your studies. That will last a lot longer than a short football career. You never know what happens with injuries.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had a bit more wisdom than my dad did, because my dad was sort of looking at it like, you're good, you can make it. Obviously, parents always have a strong bias, and they can kind of tell you things, and then after a while, you kind of think, was that the best advice?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So before I go off on a tangent, essentially I kind of got to about 16, 17 and thought, okay, look, I can try and make it as maybe a semi-pro footballer. I can try and make it in the lower leagues, because, I was okay, but I wasn't amazing. But I maybe could have got a career at lower leagues for sure. And then an opportunity came to go to university, at which point I wanted to study sport and exercise science.
Yeah.
And I got an offer at Loughborough University.
Oh, you went to Loughborough? Nice.
So it was like one of the top, obviously, sports universities in the
country.
country.
Is it the top, isn't it, really? Or is there...
Well, I'm biased, but I think it's probably the best.
Yeah, I think it is. From what I know, like Loughborough has always been considered probably the best sport. Yeah.
So being a competitive person, I was always like, all right, well, I just want to be the best at whatever I do, and what's the best universities for sport and exercise science? And it was like between like Loughborough and Bath, and again they got a big rugby rivalry, and you had like Durham and University of Birmingham.
Yeah.
So all these top universities, so then you had to get the grades and the rest of it. So I kind of like carried on playing football, but kind of started focusing a bit more on my studies, and was like, all right, if I can't be a professional footballer at the highest level, like my goal would be to work with professional footballers. And after 4 years of university, doing a master's, a range of different internships and stuff like that, I eventually got an internship in professional football, and essentially my dream came true.
That's insane, yeah. You've obviously worked with like really high level footballers, haven't you? Like I've noticed that you work with a lot of Tottenham players, didn't you?
Yes,
because that's the team I support. So
really?
like,
it was the team I grew up supporting as well.
Is it? Oh, nice.
Yeah, not much has changed. We're still pretty rubbish.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. No, that is true.
So that was the dream, to work for Tottenham. I grew up North London, so it was my local team, and my first proper job as an intern, like full-time job, was with Tottenham. I guess I had a bit of luck, at the same time worked hard for it. I then had an opportunity to move to America, to Los Angeles, and I worked for LA Galaxy.
Nice.
So I got to work with some top players
What
there.
sort of players, like what's the kind of players that you've worked with, just to give people an idea of like...
Well, in LA Galaxy, I worked with Robbie Keane.
Nice.
Steven Gerrard, Ashley Cole, and like Nigel de Jong, some of the top players there. I met Beckham. I didn't work with him day to day, but I called a bad offside call against him once, and he got annoyed with me, so that was quite fun. Good story to tell. So I got to work with David Beckham a couple of times, which was pretty cool.
What was your like role with these players? Like essentially, what were you like taking care of?
My role in America was I was manager of sports science, and my job was to look after the nutrition.
Oh, nice.
Look after everything from the like body composition analysis, monitoring the like recovery, like assisting with gym sessions, assisting with like recovery sessions.
Yeah.
So everything on the sports science spectrum, from like fitness to nutrition to like recovery. And yeah, it was incredible. I was like 22 when I moved out there, so I was trying to I was almost learning on the job. Because like I've just graduated university, I've got all this knowledge, but I didn't have necessarily the experience. At the same time, I'm in the deep end, and I'm basically trying to like give people the best advice.
Yeah,
I'm only 22.
It's young to be in that position, to be like working with that caliber of athlete as well.
Yeah, it was crazy looking back on it, but I kind of had all the science, but then at the same time,
just the theory and learning it and stuff.
And I had some understanding of the sport. I've played it my whole life. But now I'm doing it at the highest level. And then some things were being questioned, like, hold on a second, he's not having the right pre-match meal. Like, the research says it should be 250 grams. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, hold on a second, like that's not enough caffeine to really get an optimal dose. Yeah. He's taking it too soon near the game. He needs to be taking it 45 minutes before. Or
that level of detail is that like super important when you're working with that high level athlete? Because like from my perspective, obviously working with more gen pop and like maybe high performance, but still gen pop, like that going into that sort of like granular detail of like I suppose like pre-workout nutrition or like the amount of caffeine they should be having. We probably never really need to do that because it's just not necessary for them. It'd be like for them to give that kind of detail to someone that maybe is quite new to doing it, like would struggle and they'd probably get overwhelmed. So like we wouldn't coach on that level. But for someone that level that's like playing professional sport at the highest of standards, is that super important? Like, do you feel like that level of kind of like accuracy is key?
Let's just say like if it comes to like match day, like being a bit more detailed would always be important. It could be the difference between that 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
I think the big thing with football is all about education. So educating professional footballers as they come through the academy and as they become professionals. And if you were, say, for example, the sports scientist or nutritionist, you'll be working with them daily. So you build up a rapport and understanding what works well for them, how they did last game, how well they recovered. So as much as you may not necessarily say to them, hey, you should be consuming 250 grams of carbohydrates, there's nothing stopping learning that over time and then working with their chef at home or the chef in the facility to give them a plate with pasta that's whole wheat that is 150 grams, for example, and whatever 30 grams of protein. At that level, it should be done like that. And pretty much majority of the Premier League clubs, I'm not saying it was done like that when I was there, but again, there's no reason stopping it. If the players want to buy in completely to science and nutrition, you can do it really. It's possible. That makes sense. It's doable. You just need the buy-in. And with professional footballers, believe it or not, you don't always have that buy-in. That comes with over time and building trust and a relationship and helping them understand the benefits of things you're telling them. How it's going to improve their performance.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing when we spoke about before we went live on this is like we spoke about like how psychologically like footballers, maybe when it comes to them feeling like they're not going to get picked or like them worrying about someone else coming into the club and almost that like anxiety. Is that like a thing in cause that's for me, I would always be worried as a professional to be like, am I going to get picked? Am I going to stop being like the first person on the sheet and almost lose like that level of like trust? Do you feel like that happens quite a lot? Because I think the psychology is important.
I think at the highest level, psychology plays a big role.
Yeah.
I worked in Tottenham, then I moved to America, then I came back and I got a job again at Spurs. So I spent about 7 years in professional football. Obviously, the MLS is a little bit, as a league, is a little bit less competitive than the Premier League.
Yeah.
And, that goes without saying, we're talking about more money, European football, Champions League opportunities, and the MLS. Not to say it's not competitive, but it's a different beast. And over the years, it's got more. It's getting big players
in it now, though, isn't it? Like Messi,
it's got some huge players.
Massive.
The league is incredible,
but it's generally just like players that have kind of gone past their best. Do you think? And then they go there for like not always.
Not always. It's changing.
It's
changing. I think it's a great league. I love how they run their league. Everything they do with the league is amazing. It's a super amazing league. But again, you can't compare them at the moment. They're just different entities. So working in MLS, there's probably a little bit less competition for places for certain positions, just because if you've got Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard, they're pretty much going to start.
Of course.
Who's going to take their spot? Unless they're injured. Whereas at the Premier League, if you look at like Man City and Arsenal,
there's just so many players always coming up, isn't there? Like,
you look at these teams and you're like, they could change their formation and change their personnel, and they still got a really strong.
And then
squad.
Those top players could get dropped, and like that happens a lot. And like one guy will have an amazing season, and you don't really hear about him, and after that, he's kind of just put on the bench and essentially can rot. Like an example, I know I saw a picture new of Dele Alli, right? Like he's a kind of example of someone that like I don't know much about him now, but I know he had like 1 or 2 good seasons. He's just not. He doesn't really do anything anymore, right? He's kind of just fallen off. I know he had a lot of stuff that came out in the papers and stuff about him mentally, but
at that level, if you have a few bad games and then you get into a bit of a bad routine, I think it's important to understand, like as a professional footballer, you have to basically really work your whole life for something. When you get those opportunities, you have to really take them. And everything you do in terms of your lifestyle, your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, the people you have around you. As I said, I worked with Dele. He was an amazing player, like a phenomenal athlete. One of the best actual athletes I've worked with in terms of like testing. His VO2 max was incredible. An amazing guy, an amazing player, a really good person all round. Hopefully, I hope that he gets back into the rhythm he had at once upon a time, because he is a special footballer.
He was so good for like a couple of seasons at Tottenham.
He did some amazing
incredible
things. He did like some of the goals he scored were just outrageous.
Ridiculous.
So I'd love to see him back playing at his best, and again, it's down to him and him as an athlete and him as a human to work out like how much he wants to get back to that level he was and put in that work. And if he does, there's no reason why you can't see a player coming back.
100%.
He's still young.
That's true.
He's still young.
So like, I suppose then fast forwarding past football, like how then did you get into maybe what you're doing now? Like obviously coming out to Dubai and being in the S&C position that you're in now and stuff. Like what was the transition away from football?
Transition away from football, in short, was I just did it my whole life. I wanted to explore the world a little bit more. I kind of burnt out a little bit. I kind of just went from the age of 16 and went, boom, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get there. And once I was there, I was just doing it. And it is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And looking back on it, I was dealing with the pressure every day and not even questioning my happiness. But It wasn't until I had a few like different changes in my personal life that I started to go, actually, this is not making me happy.
Yeah.
And only then I was like, all right, well, what should I do? Just carry on the trajectory I've always been on, because it was always very linear. It's always like A-levels, sports science degree, masters, internship, Los Angeles, Tottenham Hotspur. We worked with Pochettino and we got to the Champions League final.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like,
oh, I remember that.
Yeah, so
we
lost to Liverpool.
I remember watching that game. Yeah.
You can blame me, no. But no, to be fair, and I don't know what happened when I look back on it, but sometimes it's a bit like being in a relationship, and on paper it looks great, but you're just not happy.
Yeah,
you're like,
no,
this is weird.
100%.
You're like, you could be an amazing person, and you're doing, for whatever reason you're not happy. And I just had to figure out what that was.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened myself. Yeah, I get the feeling.
And then I basically left football, and everyone's like, "Why would you leave?" I was like, just because I had everything I wanted. That was a dream. And the next dream was like, I want to travel the world.
Yeah.
So I literally quit, got a backpack, traveled all around South America, all around Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And then bloody COVID happened, didn't it? So it affected my Australia plans. The plan was to kind of spend a year in Australia. I spent like 5 months in Australia. It was during COVID. So it was a very different experience.
Yeah.
And Australia's amazing. I don't know if you've ever been.
I haven't actually been, no, but I do want to go.
Oh, it's incredible.
It is a place I will go to at some point.
Sydney, like Bondi Beach.
Yeah.
Byron Bay.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like a paradise.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah, I will go there.
But it was very far from home, so I don't know how long I'd have stayed out there.
That's the only thing with Australia. Yeah, that's the only thing that's probably put me. Well, obviously going on holiday is different, but I wouldn't probably go and live there. So I'd be too far away from family and things.
Then I moved back to England after like COVID and all that. Kind of spent a bit of time doing like freelance PT out there and coaching like in schools and working with a few like ex-pros or pros that I previously worked with.
Yeah.
And then this opportunity came in Dubai, and it was kind of post-COVID, but like soft COVID almost, where like we're still wearing face masks.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
not everyone was sure on the restrictions, and life in London was a bit dull. I was a bit bored.
Yeah,
and I just went traveling for a year. Went back to England, living with my mum. I was like, oh come on, this got
yeah.
Saw some opportunity in Dubai. Went to Dubai with Dele Alli for his rehab.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A few years ago, loved it, and I was like, when you visit a place, you're like, if a job ever comes here,
stay. Yeah.
Got this job, company called WellFit. Okay, never heard of them.
Yeah.
Jumped on a phone call, then jumped on a Teams call, and they showed me the vision of what they were going to do to the fitness industry over here. They showed us these like giant facilities, like 75,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's how we met.
Yeah.
They've got like martial art area. They've got this giant like a flex zone area for like CrossFit and for like spinning and yoga and big free weight section and paddle on the roof.
So good, yeah.
And I was like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
Took a gamble. I was like, worst case scenario, go out there for a few weeks. If it turns out to be some like fake company, if it turns out to be like actually like whatever, I'm like, I'll just go back home and or carry on as I'm doing, or convert my current business that I was doing as a freelancer to maybe an online business and whatever. And that was the opportunity I wanted to take, to be like, let me take this like risk.
Yeah.
And let's see where it goes.
That's so important to go down on that. Like, I feel like you're so right. Like, in terms of taking risks, people fear about taking them, but you actually have to think about like worst case scenario. Like you just said there, like people don't take risks, and sometimes like what is the worst thing that can happen? Like you just go back home. Like, or if you like leave your job and you try and set up a business, it doesn't work. You just go back and get either the same job or go get another job. So like the risk versus reward factor, I feel like people don't always actually add up. And most of the time, the worst case scenario is never that bad. It's either like take a risk and get your dream life, or like don't take the risk and just carry on living a life that you're not that happy or fulfilled with. So
that's it. I think it's like the whole achievement motivation of like, like need to avoid failure.
Yeah.
So people like are scared, like we're all scared to fail.
Just stay comfortable.
We're all scared to fail, right?
Yeah.
But big deal.
Exactly. Well, you learn from failure.
You're not happy. You're failing right now.
Exactly. And most of the things that people worry about never happen anyway. It's like I can't even remember where I got this from, but like apparently it's like, I don't know, butcher this. Most of the thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis that we actually worry about or that we fear never happen. So like all the things that we're worrying about, that we're thinking, if I take this risk, they never happen anyway. So that's why like taking risks is so important. Like I mean, I suppose for me it wasn't really a risk coming out to Dubai because I was doing the same thing, but if I didn't enjoy it, then I would have just moved back. Maybe wouldn't have managed to get back in my relationship. Could have tried, but I would have moved back to the UK.
Take me back, babe.
Yeah.
It's rubbish. It's awful.
Could have tried it, but yeah, obviously it worked out. I think like that's any time I've pretty much taken a risk in my life, it's never not worked out. I think you just have to back yourself and have like real self-belief in what you do. Like actually, if you really try and like make something work, then most of the time it's gonna work.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I've made a few like those big decisions sometimes. It's a story I don't really tell many people, but actually when I left Los Angeles and moved back to England, I got a job offer at Liverpool Football Club.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah. So at the time I was working in sports science a lot in America, and I actually just got fed up of working in nutrition, to be honest. It was just like, these players aren't even listening to me.
Yeah.
Giving them meal plans.
Yeah,
they
well,
don't care.
touched through my life, mate, yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. It was like, and I got to the point where I was like, I learned loads about nutrition, and we'll get into like blood markers, and we're like, let's pay for blood testing. So I was going to the manager like, hey, look, we need to do blood profiling.
Yeah.
We need to know the deficiencies, what they're deficient, the omega-3, omega-6 ratio, vitamin D levels. All, like, we're going into the science of it. How much is it? About, $1,000 per player. Let's say $25,000. No, don't approve it. Like, I said, but like, if not, we're just guessing. It's about absorption and da-da-da.
So important,
it's not just telling them to eat the right foods. Like, we need to understand as athletes, if they're not absorbing the right foods, do we need to give them a higher concentration? Do we then need to supplement? This is the level you need to supplement, not just for the average person that has a bad diet. Like, they have a really good diet, but they're still getting cramp, and they're still getting other issues. They're still suffering with sleep, or we'll do like bi-weekly hydration testing. Always dehydrated. Like, we need to do some tests now. And if those tests don't get approved, anyway, it's like a short example of like some of those frustrations. You're like, all right, well, okay, I want to do my job better. I want to get results. Now you need some buy-in. So you need buy-in, whether it's at head office level, you need buy-in from the players for them to actually then take the supplements. There's all those things with nutrition where eventually I was just like, what I really want to do, I want to make an impact. I want to work with professional athletes or whoever I work with, even if in my current role, I want to make the biggest impact with my time. I was like, I want to learn. I want to get better at strength conditioning. I am a strength conditioning coach, but I can become better. I can learn more. I can apply more. I can do more courses. I can learn more about Olympic lifting. I can learn more how to apply that into football. I can learn way more about plyometrics and about explosive training and whatever it is. So when I moved back to England, I was like, I don't want to work as a sports scientist anymore. Like, on one side of my role, I was looking at all the data analytics from like the GPS monitors they use. You've probably seen them on TV. Like, you've got different companies like Stat Sports and Catapult. So it's measuring so many things all at once. It's not just telling you like your distance and your heart rate. It's telling you how many accelerations you do, or what really speed zones they do. It's looking at loads of like things like dynamic stress load, things that you have to like, you don't even know what they are. Like, I didn't learn this at university. What is it? And learning about it. So you get all these data inputs like Excel, like making pivot table charts out of it. Looking at each of the players, like acute and chronic stress load, and look at the total accumulation of acceleration. And it's amazing stuff. But at the end of the week, guess what? No one
cares.
Well, they do care. And then it's like, but you've done all this work, and maybe 1 week it makes a big difference, and maybe 1 week it doesn't.
It depends who you talk, like who you explain.
Now
imagine trying to explain that to someone like Jack Grealish, like he's probably not going to give a shit.
Now when I worked with Pochettino, his team were amazing at looking at data and using it. But let's just say not all managers will be the same. And some players wouldn't care how much they're doing.
Exactly that.
And the thing with the gym is that most players like the gym. And if they don't like the gym, maybe they don't have to be in the gym, but the players that want to get into the gym and they want to work hard, you can push them and you can get results. So that's when I found with my role at Spurs, was that where I got really good results was when players were basically coming back from injury and they needed more strength training and they needed more gym work, and we were getting really good results. And you can really build players up, and the more time you're spending in the gym with players, the more like closeness you build with the person you're working with. And then you build trust, and then you get more buy-in, and then you can actually start to like really push them. And I found that a lot more rewarding than say like the nutrition side of things.
I've got you.
So moving away from football, I was like, I like strength conditioning. I think it's cool. You can get results. You can get results fairly quickly, and then the people you're working with, like, they validate you to be like, oh yeah, thanks for the results. And it's like kind of what you do. Like, if you're not getting results.
Exactly. 100%. So then when you moved to Dubai, because you didn't take the job offer at Liverpool in the end.
No, the job I took the job there, and I literally.
You did take it.
Yeah, and when we talk about high risk, high reward, basically 2 weeks in, there was a job offer to go back to Spurs, and ironically, one in Dubai. I just things coming free like buses, they say, right? So there's a job offer in Dubai as a strength conditioning coach at a football club that I don't remember. And then there was a job offer at Spurs. I moved to Dubai. I've never been to Dubai. Sounds cool, but money sounds great, but I've never been. Very risky. We'll go back to Spurs, and I'm from London. I wasn't really enjoying it at Liverpool, and I was a bit like, this is a bit of a mistake. I was working with Jurgen Klopp and his team, I was like, this ain't what it would be. And I took the job back at Spurs and then ended up in Dubai anyway.
You came to Dubai.
But after like visiting Dubai, job offer came in Dubai. I was like, okay, I've been to Dubai. Yeah. I think that could work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In this point in my career, in this point in my life.
That makes sense.
And I've never looked back. It's probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. Yeah. Hands down.
So then, like, I guess moving on to more of your actual like fitness then. So that I know you've obviously done a lot. You've done a Hyrox, you've done a half Ironman, a 70.2.
70.2,
yeah. And then you've done marathons. So you've done a lot of endurance sports as well.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't see myself as an endurance athlete.
Yeah.
But people sometimes say, oh, you're an endurance guy. And I was like, yeah, I am, but I'm not. Like, because football's quite intermittent, right? High intensity. So I think I like the challenge of doing these like doing a marathon, or the challenge of doing like an Ironman, but I'm not necessarily like that. I'm not built that way. I'm more built for like short, sharp, high intensity, not necessarily strength power side, but that mid range. So like I do prefer like the sprint triathlon out of all the triathlons.
Yeah.
So that, it takes.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be quite.
I think my PB on that was like an hour 20 minutes. So it's like playing 90 minutes of football.
Yeah, it's kind of relates.
The Hyrox, again, I like the Hyrox stuff because it's pretty high intensity. Like I've only ever done one by myself, and that took me like an hour 13, which I hope to beat when I next do it.
What's your thoughts on like? Would you reckon? Because Hyrox at the moment is like such a trend. Everyone's doing it, and seems to be like the kind of like the new thing. Like, what's
trend or fad?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Wow.
It could go either way.
It could go either way. I think some of it is a bit of a fad. Like some people that are doing it, like yourself, like actual people that are, like athletes and people that have got a really good background in fitness, that have been in shape for a long time. And yeah, 100%. Like it's something that I would see myself doing at some point. But I just feel like sometimes people are just jumping on the bandwagon when like they're not even really, I don't want to say out of shape because I mean, that's subjective, but like they're not really maybe experienced in fitness and they're kind of jumping into a Hyrox and stuff because it's like the new trend and it's cool and they're doing it with their partner. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think anyone who's doing fitness, I do encourage that, but it does seem to be getting a lot of hype now and a lot of people are doing it. And yeah, I think it is a bit of a fad, but it's not a bad fad. I just think it's obviously people jumping on it a lot.
Yeah, it's like they're all getting benefits out of doing it, whether it's a sense of community from being part of the Hyrox community, whether it's like losing weight, whether it's overcoming a challenge.
Yeah, but that's the thing with fitness though, isn't it? Like I feel like different things become trending. Like years ago, everyone was competing. Like everyone was wanting to go and do a fitness modeling competition or bodybuilding. Like when I competed, it was a real thing. Like everyone was like, oh, I'm going to go and do this. And everyone was wanting to be a pro and stuff. And I mean, competing is still big now, but it's nowhere near as big now. Like not that. I mean, there are people doing it, but it's not as big as what it used to be. Whereas like, now, then I suppose we're in more of like a hybrid era. Like I feel like people are really into like wanting to be hybrid and run and all this kind of stuff. And that's now obviously that is Hyrox in somewhat, isn't it? It's kind of like being able to run and functionality and stuff. So we seem to go through waves with fitness where like things become a bit of a trend. Which I guess is just the way with everything. But
I'm just thinking in my head like what trends or fads were about that are no longer about, and it's kind of hard to think.
Like, even like powerlifting and stuff. You know what I mean? Like that was more, or like you went through the Gymshark era where everyone was like wanting to sort of be a Gymshark athlete, and now that's dead. And that's dead a little bit. Everyone's wearing like stringer vests and stuff. Do you know? It's kind of like
I think Hyrox will stay. I think the Hyrox as an event is amazing. So I've done the open and I've done the doubles.
Yeah.
And I love all the different like varieties. But then when I really analyze Hyrox and I'm into Hyrox, I'm like, I think it's super cool. The last Hyrox here in Dubai in February, we brought 80 members from our facility, and there was over 5,000 people there. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right. So someone's like to me, like someone that doesn't know about Hyrox, you go, hey bro, what's this Hyrox thing? Like what's the hype?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's basically like it's this event and like you basically have to run and push sleds and you basically do ski and like you do wall balls. So like CrossFit. Yeah. No, but it's different.
It's different, yeah.
Like how's it different? Like,
it sounds the same, but it's not.
Because it's basically like
you run.
You do a lot of running.
Yeah.
How much running? 8K. 8K? Yeah, but you do 1K and then you do a fitness station. Okay, so like, explain it. So you basically run a K, then you ski, then you run, then you sled push, and by then they've already lost interest.
Yeah.
But then they have like 10,000 people show up in London and do it.
Yeah.
I can't even explain it to you right now, right? But if I said to you, what's a triathlon? You swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
What's the distance? Oh, which event? Sprint. Okay, cool. 750. You know, off the top of my head, 20 kilometers bike and then 5K run. Done. What do you need? You just swim and bike and whatever. You can do it on the spin bike. Was the Hyrox? You need all this equipment. So the two guys that invented it and the company, I just kudos to them because they're killing it.
Yeah.
And I'm just gutted that we didn't come up with it sooner, because it's not the most genius idea.
It's not. No,
it's not the most sexy idea. Like, you're gonna run 8 kilometers into Spurs with 8 fitness stations. Sounds awful.
Crazy. Yeah.
It literally sounds. It's not even that cleverly designed. If I'm honest, like, you need a lot of equipment to run this event.
Yeah.
You need a giant space, a lot of equipment. You need these big sleds. But now, actually, what it's done is actually changed fitness in that, like, even our gym, we want to buy Hyrox sleds. So they're like Hyrox sleds that have a rope on a specific side with the poles so they can be easily moved. Even the kettlebells are like Hyrox kettlebells. So they've actually really now got a foothold in the market for, like, the fitness like commercial sector to buy certain equipment for Hyrox. I think it's actually going to get bigger and bigger, to be honest.
I think it will get bigger. What would you say was harder out of prepping towards like a half Ironman or prepping towards a marathon versus Hyrox? Like, what would you say is more of a difficult endurance event?
I think it all depends on your state of mind going into these races. I think I did the marathon many years ago because I was like in a bit of a bad place mentally, and I was like, I need a challenge. I need something to just like aim for. So the marathon was awful. Running in England in December, in January, it was cold, it was wet. Some of these runs were just literally lonely. It was training for an Ironman here. Like, I'd wake up, you know, the sun would be out, swimming in the ocean. Yeah. The Ironman was I would say the Ironman was actually like, it was 5.5 hours. Yeah. Whereas the marathon took me 3.5 hours. Yeah. So, all right, volume wise, the Ironman was way more fun.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like a little bit of a change up.
I'm tempted to do an hour of a marathon next year, like just because I thought, let me do it in Dubai. I might enjoy it more.
The marathon or the full marathon?
Maybe the full.
Full, yeah. I do want to do a marathon at some point.
Hyrox is a lot easier to train for. Yeah. Especially like our gym WellFit is kind of like almost
It'd be perfect.
It's almost perfect.
It is.
I want you to do one though.
Yeah, I will do one.
Come on camera now. Confirm now. You'll do the next Hyrox.
When is the next Hyrox in Dubai?
I believe it's gonna be September.
I don't want to confirm that because it's like it's when I just come back from Thailand.
Come on. All right. If not this one, the one after.
The one after, definitely. Yeah.
Shake my hand on it. 100%. There we are. We got you on camera.
Not the one in September, but the one after that. I will do that because I do want to box one off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got him signed up.
I will do that. It's a goal I actually.
You'll be like wearing a Hyrox t-shirt. I love Hyrox. Best thing ever.
I'll get one of those photos everyone gets, like looking shredded, like by the Hyrox. That's the only reason I'm doing it. I want to do one. Yeah. Right. But I think I did actually confirm that. I think I said about my goals and stuff. Hyrox is definitely on there. Okay, nice. I want to do a marathon as well, so it's a bit of a mix. But yeah, I think at some point.
What was your half marathon time?
It was like 1:33.
That's quick.
It was 1:32, I think. It was quick. Yeah, it was just shy of 90 minutes, and that was what I was hoping for.
Where did you run that?
I did that in Dubai. It was it wasn't actually a great half marathon. It was, I can't remember what it was. It was won by
Ras Al Khaimah, right?
No, that was the second.
1:32 is quick, bro.
Yeah, it was like Creek Harbour. Yeah, like it was one that they did there, but it was more of a local one, and it wasn't that competitive, and it was a bit of a shit course as well. It was like a lot of zigzagging and stuff, so I probably could have run it in 90 if it was a proper course.
What was your weight at the time?
It was about 86, 87. No, about 88, 89
kilo. Many 88 kg guys.
Yeah.
With your muscle mass running.
That was when I had the torn pec as well.
That's impressive, honestly.
Because it completely broke.
You can run something quick, but then to try and... That's like my fear, and I think it's your fear as well. To these endurance stuff, like, you don't want to lose too much muscle mass.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, like, I want to stay below 10% body fat, and I don't want to drop too much muscle mass because I don't want to feel... And even if you do lose a little bit of muscle... Sometimes what happens is you just feel more sluggish.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all of a sudden you're doing less strength work, less explosive training, and just generally your body feels a bit different. You're a bit more like glycogen depleted at times, even if you're fully recovering, especially with these endurance runs where you're going out for 2-hour runs. Yeah,
that's the thing with the half. I felt like it was just about okay for me to not really have to worry about losing muscle. Look, I did train for it. I didn't train really intensely for it, but... I didn't really lose my physique at all, to be honest. I managed because the maximum of the running, was about an hour. I mean, in terms of the actual like lead up, I probably maybe just did shy of the actual half. So I didn't feel like I was running for that long for it to be that taxing on my body. But I know for an actual full, like this is a different picture. I would probably lose muscle and probably be a lot more challenging. So
although I've done a marathon, I don't necessarily think they're that healthy for you. It's like the whole thing of like, you know, with your glycogen stores. you hear about it a lot when people run marathons about hitting the wall.
Yeah.
It's generally
I've
around
heard
the
that,
2-hour mark. So like even if you fully load up on glycogen, your liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, high intensity exercise, generally you give about 2 hours of high intensity exercise. And that doesn't mean 2 hours of exercise, it's 2 hours of high intensity exercise. So it could be that you're running a 3-hour marathon, use up all the glycogen, then boom, you hit the wall, you start cramping, which happened to me. That last half an hour, even though you've been taking carb gels during the race, even though you're literally cramping for the next half an hour, like hamstrings cramping, groin is cramping, quads are cramping, and then you're just going from like a 7-minute mile pace to like a 10-minute mile pace, and all your training's gone out the window. And that's the only reason why I want to do a marathon again is to basically do one without cramping.
With a good,
try to break sub 3.5 hours.
That'd be a class time.
And I think it's doable, but at the same time, it's like one of those things where it's nice to train with someone because it gets lonely.
Yeah, I bet.
And the runs are long, and you know you gotta really, really like motivate yourself like on a deeper level to run those like long runs on like the weekend or first thing in the morning. And it does take up a lot of your day. So like that's why I don't see myself as an endurance athlete per se. Because those endurance athletes wake up at 5 a.m. and do it no problem.
And do their training.
Whereas me, I prefer lifting weights.
I agree. Just to wrap things up then, Alex, I mean, we could probably end up talking for ages, but what would you say, like obviously you've done a lot of endurance events, you've obviously worked a lot in football, but you've always been in shape as well, ever since I've known you. And I know it's not been like a huge amount of time, but you've always consistently been in good shape. You've always had like a 6-pack, and obviously a lot of people that want to listen to this, like they want to be in good shape, they want to be lean. What would be your advice then, just to close things off, of like maybe a few tips that you would give people in terms of like staying in shape all year round? Like what do you do, like maybe even subconsciously, that can help people stay in shape, or habits or whatever that you would advise people? Maybe that's nutrition, training, whatever.
Like in regards to training, I think it's all about trying to find things that you enjoy. So I didn't speak about it at all, but I'm actually a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
I do. And
I've seen that. I've got a boxing fight coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, sick.
Just like a friendly amateur one. So do things you enjoy. Like do things, and like don't make your training so repetitive. So the moment it gets boring, mix it up and like keep it varied constantly, and that way you'll stay in fitness long term. In terms of nutrition, I think it's all just about the basics. It's like keeping your protein high. Only consuming carbohydrates based around your training. So if you're training lots of endurance, take on carbohydrates. But if you're not doing lots of endurance training, try to obviously reduce them.
I think that's a good tactic. I've been doing that recently.
Pretty straightforward with that. And then in terms of all the other stuff, like
habitual lifestyle,
just like healthy habits, a healthy circle. Your circle's so important, not just to like how you eat, but how you think, how you act, your just everyday behavior. So surround yourself with good people, environment. Surround yourself with people that are motivated, that are basically people that want to succeed, and that basically like want to like achieve things, whether it's in their fitness or in their business or whatever, and you'll become part of that. And I think the famous saying is like you're the sum average of the 5 people.
It's so true. The 5 people you hang around with.
So every now and then I joke to one of my mates, I'm like, at the moment you're at that circle. Like,
you go, mate. You get replaced.
You skip gym again, you're out.
You're gone. No, that's really good advice. I agree. I think like everything you said there is what we probably would probably try and teach the clients as well. And your circle is so important. Environment's important. That's generally like what I think is the key. So, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for that. It's a lot of value that you've given everyone today. Where can people find out more about you? Like, what's your kind of most popular?
Probably on Instagram. I think it's alex.savva19. Very original. It's my name, my birthday. But generally on that, I don't post all the time, but every now and then, a few things here and there.
You got quite a cool page. You got all your endurance and stuff on here, and you travel.
Just as I
lifestyle.
said, just more lifestyle stuff. But
yeah.
If anyone needs any help with anything, just let me know. I'm happy to help with anything.
Awesome. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on board. Guys, if you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for future videos as well. If you're on Spotify or on your Apple, give us a 5-star review. And make sure you're subscribing to the next podcast, and we'll catch you then.